Hi everyone, my name is Vaishnavi Dilipan. If you're a long-time viewer of this channel, you'd know me as the person who generally sings or tells stories or tells mantras on this channel. And so today, I thought I'd take a little detour, pun intended, from the usual content of the channel. And that's for a very specific reason. After seeing a bunch of videos on how hard the G2 road test can be, and how many times people have failed the G2 road test, because I thought that was a great way to boost my confidence on the day of my road test, I ended up passing my G2 road test on the first try. And so I thought it'd be really helpful if I could give out the tips and tricks that worked for me so that it could help other people who are just taking their road test. And maybe it'd help you feel more confident and hence do much better on your exam. Because trust me, even if you're great at driving, nerves can play a huge role in the exam. The first tip I would say is please book driving lessons with a certified instructor. Because you could have been driving with your G1 license for a long while at this point, and you may think you're completely fine and that you're confident enough to take the road test. But if you go with a certified instructor, they can very easily spot the little mistakes that you're making, the small things, which take off marks on the exam. Because most people, they don't fail for doing critical errors, things that cause automatic failures. Most people don't fail for that. Most people generally fail because they accumulate too many small demerit points on the exam, which are also called misdemeanors. Too many people fail because they accumulate too many of those because they're too focused on the critical mistakes, which you need to be focused on, but most people don't realize when they make these smaller mistakes. And that's where instructors come into play. Personally speaking, I had a great driving instructor. Her name is Miss Sapna Gupta, and honestly, I loved every minute of the classes I had with her because she made me feel really confident and she herself was really calm, which I think is a huge deal when it comes to having a driving instructor. So, if you're trying to go for a driving instructor and you're near Brampton, it's probably a better idea. I would suggest going for her, and I would suggest trying to make sure if you can go for her, try to find a driving instructor who doesn't yell at you every 5 minutes because that makes it so much easier when you're trying to learn how to do something new because you're already nervous enough without needing the person beside you yelling in your ear every 2 minutes. And that's the first thing I'd say. Because when I went with her, she not only taught me how to operate the car, and she also told me where I was making smaller mistakes. Like I used to make too wide turns, that sort of thing. She corrected me and she made me figure out how not to do that, and how to properly merge, how to properly do lane changes, all of that. So, please, go for a certified driving instructor. It will really save you your money in the long run. Because you do need to pay if you fail your G2 test. If you're trying to retake it, you do need to pay. The second thing I would say is practice in your test area. This is kind of especially true, I would say personally, if you're testing in some place like Brampton. Because Brampton's test routes, they're legendary, and not in a good way either. I have been through so many stop signs where I've been going with the stop line on the road and trying to use that to locate where the stop sign is because I cannot see the stop sign to save my life because it's covered by so many trees. That the speed limit keeps changing from like 50 to 40 to 60 every 10 seconds, it feels like. And so, either find a better location, like for me, I used Orangeville. I took my test in Orangeville because Orangeville is significantly much less chaotic, and so Orangeville is a better place to test. That being said, please be prepared. I prepared in Brampton traffic, so I was able to manage Orangeville traffic. So do go prepared, because otherwise you're going to become too nervous on the test. But also, if possible, try to see which place is better, and timing matters too. I went near the morning time, because that was when my test was booked, but I went in the morning, since that time there weren't too many people. I think if I had gone a bit earlier, I may have gotten stuck with school buses and other stuff. So take care of the timing, take care of the location because you get to plan this out. You're not restricted to your own locality. I didn't need to test in Brampton. I took my test somewhere else. And you are able to search it up online. I'll post a quick image here on screen right now where it shows you guys the test rates, the pass rates. Because places like Orangeville, they have a significantly higher pass rate. Places like Brampton, however, Brampton has a 47% pass rate at the time of me making this video. So, Be careful on where you're testing, be careful at the time you're testing, because that all plays a role. Next thing I'd say is nail the core maneuvers. The core things like parallel parking, 3-point turns, and some of the other stuff that they can ask you, the uphill and downhill curb parkings, the parkings in general, because there are 7 different types of parkings, and they're allowed to ask the examiner. The examiner can ask you as many different types of parkings as they want. They really have no restriction other than the time, so to say. I was asked to do an uphill curb parking, parallel parking, as well as an angular parking near the very end because the DMV had angular parking. So practice all of that. It will save you a lot of stress. I spent the better part of 3 days before my test just doing parallel parking and curb parkings until I could perfect them. And I ended up doing maybe at least 150 different angular parkings. Even if that meant I had to drive out for like half an hour from my area to try to find one singular place that had angular parking. I practiced it there. I tried to go to Orangeville, figure out what they had, and try to do all of that because I knew I was testing in Orangeville. I booked my test like a month earlier. So please practice all of that. It will make your life so much easier. Even with 3-point turns, I had practiced maybe 10, 15 of them because I was a bit more confident with 3-point turns than I was with parallel parking. So I practiced parallel parking more. And seriously, as for parallel parking, I know a lot of people, even experienced drivers, get really, really nervous with parallel parking to the point where they'd rather walk than have to parallel park a car. And I can kind of understand that, but you need to do it on the test if the examiner asks you. They can not ask you. It's their call. They can choose to not ask you parallel parking, in which case they will likely ask you to reverse into the parking lot. And I guess it's up to you to decide which one's worse. Either way, practice parallel parking so you're not caught off guard if they ask you. Especially if you're going for Orangeville, they are gonna sometimes, the most common route they will take you in will have a parallel parking where the cars are all lined up on top of a raised platform. So you are gonna need to parallel park into that raised platform and make sure you don't hit any cars behind you. So be careful of that. And also, know that it is okay if you touch the curb. And please keep in mind, I'm saying touch, not hit. For me, when reversing in the parallel parking, I was going at maybe a very, very slow speed. I was going less than 5 because I wasn't accelerating it at all. The second I thought it was going to hit, I corrected myself by going forward and then recorrecting. But they are fine if you lightly touch the curb. What they don't want is that you're accelerating backwards, which is a bad idea in and of itself. If you're accelerating backwards and you slam into the curb going like, say, 20 kilometers an hour. For the people who use miles, here is the same value in miles. They don't want you to do that. That can actually damage the car pretty seriously. And at that point, it's kind of clear you're not able to see behind yourself. You're not able to see what's behind you. And you're not a safe driver. That's an automatic fail. It's also an automatic fail if you touch the curb and you still continue reversing onto the curb. They are fine if you lightly touch the curb, you tell them you're correcting, and you actually correct. Like in my case, I went a bit too close to the curb, but I had realized it by the time, and I told my examiner that I'm going to correct it. She just said correct it, but don't restart the parallel parking. So that's what I did, and I passed. So yeah, be confident in the maneuvers, practice them, and know that if you make a slight mistake, it's not the end of the world. They're more looking to test if you know what you're doing than if you can do everything perfectly 100% of the time. Keep in mind, this is a G2 license. This isn't a full license. I also know that a lot of people will tend to fail if, and specifically due to, not putting turn signals correctly. And one of the things my instructor kept telling me was that I put the turn signals a bit too early. And that it's not exactly an automatic fail. It depends on your examiner, really. But not putting the turn signals is an automatic fail. Putting them a bit too early can cost you a decent amount of demerit points. I learned my lesson with my instructor to not do that. But one other thing, don't be too overly cautious, right? So, that being said, like, don't try to run a red light. And I know sometimes it's hard, or rather, I'm speaking from experience. I don't know if everybody goes through this, like, as a new driver. I don't know if I was just particularly needing some sort of extra guide to figure this out. I don't know. I'm saying this from experience, right? So, what happened with me when I was trying to do turns generally speaking, or turns, going through an intersection, actually, is a better way to word it, is that I see a green light, and I think I can go. And then by the time I'm halfway through the intersection, it's like, I look up, and I notice the light's yellow. I was like, oh my god, the light is yellow. And also, I need to go before it turns red. So I've had a lot of times, especially with my dad, where he will tell me to stop, and I'm like, why do I need to stop? It's great. Oh, it turned to yellow. I see why I need to stop. And so it was really annoying. It was really annoying. I did not enjoy it. But one of the tips he gave me after a while was, if you have a pedestrian crossing, please look at it. And that saved me on the test because my examiner said make a right turn at the traffic light. Said traffic light was green, and so I had slowed down a bit to make the right turn because I was going at 50. So I need to slow down. I wasn't planning to make a turn at 50, and the turn was kind of sharp, so I didn't want to take a chance. I slowed down, and so as I slowed down, I glanced over to the pedestrian crossing. The hand signal that shows whether pedestrians can go or not. You're probably familiar with it. You took the G1 knowledge test if you're watching this, I assume. Or you're either going to take it, I hope, if you haven't already. The flashing hand signal, which indicates whether or not pedestrians can go. It was flashing. It's orange and flashing. And underneath it said 1. That is to say, there was 1 second before the pedestrians could no longer safely share a crossing. And so I braked. The exact second I decided to brake, the light turned yellow. And I'm looking up and I'm just like, there's no chance I could have made the right turn. So I would have failed the exam due to running a red light if I had started the turn. So that's what I'm saying. Try to use visual cues. If you have this issue, then try to use a pedestrian crossing. And yeah, those are all my tips, I guess, from personal experience of how you can pass your G2 on the first try. Because trust me, it is not as hard as the Reddit comments, I guess. I check Reddit mostly. I assume other sites also have comments. It's not, it's not as hard as the comments make it seem. It's hard. I'm not gonna say it isn't, but it's not as hard as it's made to seem. Just keep calm, know what you're doing, and be fairly confident. Don't lose your head over one small mistake, because really one small mistake isn't gonna cost you everything. So just be calm, take it as another ride, and you should be fine. So I really hope these tips from me helped you guys with your G2 license. And if you found these helpful, please comment which ones you found most helpful. And also, please comment if you got your G2 license, because I would actually really, really love to know. That being said, if you want a video on common mistakes that are made within G2, if you want something like that, leave comments, I guess. Leave comments. If there are enough comments, I may try to make more videos like this. Just tell me what you guys want, I guess. And I'll try. I know this is way out of the norm for the content of this channel, but if you guys like it, I guess I'm open to doing stuff like this. Let's see how it goes. Hope this helped, and hope everyone has a great drive. Bye!